Morning, boys and girls. I hope you've had a fantastic long bank holiday weekend enjoying the sunshine, and welcome back to what would have been SATs week. But we don't need to worry about that. For the first time since I've been teaching, there are no SATs, so the only thing we do need to worry about this week is making sure we've had that fantastic breakfast that we would have had in school. So if you haven't had your breakfast, go and have a good breakfast before you start your maths. Okay? Right, so we are looking this week, we're going to carry on with practising. We looked at adding and subtracting fractions last week, and we're moving on this week to look at fractions, decimals and percentages. And you all did fantastically when we learnt about this in class. So I have no doubt that you will continue to be superstars. So I don't need to tell you too much about them because you already know it all, but just a quick refresher. So when we're thinking about fractions, decimals and percentages, they all represent the same thing. They all represent parts of a whole. And the key to understanding them is understanding the size of the parts. Right, so if we think about fractions first, we can divide a whole into any number of pieces that we want. We can divide it into 2 and have halves, 3 and have thirds, 4 and have quarters, 27 and have 27ths, 635 and have 635ths. It doesn't matter, we're not limited to the size of our fractions. Okay, but it's only with fractions that that holds true. So I'm going to work through converting one as an example to show you exactly what I mean. So if I put an F for fractions, they can be any size parts, okay? And I'm going to start off using 1/5. I'm going to divide my whole into 5 equal parts. So let's think about decimals. We're slightly more limited here. If we think about place value, we've got our ones, then we've got our decimal point, and then if we keep moving across the place value chart, we get 10 times smaller each time. So then we have our tenths, then we have our hundredths, and we could carry on, we'd have our thousandths and so on and so forth. So we can't immediately slot 1/5 into that place value chart. What can we do? We can find an equivalent fraction for 1/5 using one of these denominators. Now simply, the easiest one is to convert fifths into tenths. I chose a simple one to get you going. So if I want to convert 1/5 into tenths, I know that I can multiply my denominator by 2 to give me 10. And because I'm keeping the same value, I'm finding an equivalent. I need to multiply my numerator by 2. So 1/5 equals 2 tenths. So that's now really easy to slot. No ones, decimal point, 2 tenths, there's our tenths, we have 2 of them, okay? Very simple, be conscious of the size of the parts. And then the final one is your percentages, which always scare people, but they're really, really simple. So I'm going to go back to the 1/5, but I'm also going to tell you about how we would do it straight from a decimal. So percentages mean out of what? Spot on, out of 100. Okay? And we know that a fraction, as a fraction, it would be like that. So percentages are hundredths. Now, if we go back to our fraction, we haven't got hundredths specifically there, have we? But we know that 10 hundredths, is 1/10 because of our place value knowledge. If you want to put that extra step in, we could multiply our numerator and denominator by 10 to get 20 hundredths. We've now got 20 out of 100, so 1/5 is 20%, and remember the symbol for percent. Now, to convert from decimals to percentages is even easier, because if we look, we've got hundredths there, and percentages are out of 100. They are the number of hundredths. So if we wanted to know how many hundredths, if we put a 0 in our hundredths column, which makes no difference to the value, we can see straight away that we've got 20 hundredths, which is 20%. Okay, so just think very carefully about the size of the parts. You cannot compare apples and bananas, all right? Also, if you're comparing within decimals and percentages, you can compare within decimals and percentages without any conversions at all, because you can just look at the value of the numbers. But if you're comparing fractions, remember you've got to have the same size parts to compare, so you will be looking for common denominators. Okay, it's going to be quite straightforward today. Some word problems at the end, but they're not going to be too challenging for you today. So good luck, have fun. Any problems, let me know, and I'll see you later. Bye, guys.